Hey everybody, we're back again. So, I've got some news for everybody. I have been playing with this thing a lot off camera, and I'm going to give you a little tour of a revamped car class, and I'm going to give you the car class that I made. I was just kind of tooling around with it and got carried away, and I kind of drastically changed stuff. So rather than kind of walking you through it step by step, it's kind of actually pretty boring and mathy what I did. So I'm just going to show you the changes I made, and I'll give you the code so that we can move on to some more fun stuff. So this video will be only about giving you a tour of the new car class, and then we'll be ready to move on and make a ball and make it bounce around. Okay? So let me show you what's up. Okay? So we have some new stuff in here, such as is braking, right? We have a brake function. We have angle facing and angle moving. That's going to be really cool. I'll show you about that and how that works. I made the drift feature. Okay, so and what else? We got rid of max speed, so I'm going to show you all this stuff. I'm going to try to do it in like less than 5 minutes, so it's not too boring. You guys can kind of fudge around with the code and see if you like it or not. So first of all, I made an update function. Okay, so in the app, which I'll also give you, I have car.update. All right, so instead of checking the keys in and making the car move or whatever, or draw in the app, I have it updating itself here. Part of the update is to check to see if keys are pressed to make it go, and then part of the update is that there's always some friction acting on the car. The car will always move and the car will always draw itself. Okay, so what's new? Let's try to go through this quickly. Okay, so why isn't there a max speed? So check this out. Accelerate, for example, used to be go forward. Reverse used to be go backwards, but accelerate, all it does is just add some velocity, right, adds the acceleration amount to the velocity. So what's stopping that from getting carried away and going crazy, right, and going like infinity speed? Well, the friction that's applied, pay no attention to the stuff below, I'll talk about that later. The friction that's applied right here, I went ahead and ran a mathematical regression on what friction I felt should be natural. So right around 6 miles per hour, or a velocity of 6, the friction perfectly cancels out the acceleration. And then when you get boost, you get a little bit of extra acceleration, and this friction will cancel out that acceleration around 10 miles per hour. So this friction kind of naturally always is happening, and it naturally will cap the speed, and the friction gets stronger as the car gets faster, right? So it kind of naturally caps its speed. So I'll let you play around with this and see if you like it. I just basically ran a mathematical regression and used a calculator to figure out what equation would go through the points that I wanted. For example, like at a velocity of 6, I want the friction to be perfectly 0.01. Remember, that's our acceleration, or whatever it is, 0.1, sorry. And right at a velocity of 10, I want the friction to be 0.02 or whatever it was with the boost. And then I just kind of ran a mathematical regression. I got this cubic function that I kind of liked. I don't think that friction works cubically in the real world, but I like the way this feels with the car. I'll talk about this a little bit. So why is this in friction? You can play around with this and kind of investigate it if you want yourself. But there's going to be two things about the car. The car could be facing one way but sliding in another direction. So the angle that the car is facing is not always the same that it's the angle that it's moving. So part of the friction process is that if it's not facing the same way that it's moving, that you correct some of that angle, right? So we're going to head back towards, right? So if the angle it's facing is not equal to the angle it's moving, then we're going to have the angle facing kind of go towards, or sorry, the angle moving is going to head towards the angle that it's facing, right? I could actually probably improve this so that they kind of come back together instead of one moving towards the other. But hopefully you can understand this logic. So accelerate is easy. Reverse is really easy. You're going to see that as well. Brake is simply applying the friction extra. The brake, I actually had a new button, which is the L key, and I trust that you guys can figure out the L key part, right? If the L key is pressed, then you run this function. What does boost do now? Anything new in boost? Yeah, I think boost is greatly simplified. If you have some boost, then you're boosting. Then you're going to add some extra acceleration onto this. So notice that like you could be boosting and accelerating, and that there you're going to get like a lot of extra acceleration, like 2.5 the amount of acceleration than if you would have just gone with the gas pedal. Otherwise, so if you don't have any boost left, you're not boosting anymore. So the turn functions, you guys, are going to kind of freak you out a little bit, and I bet you can kind of figure out why. The turn functions are going to have to be responsible for not only just turning the car, but also making it slide and things like that. So let me just try to. I'm just going to warn you, it's pretty scary. This was me getting carried away mathematically. Um, so let's take a look at it. Ready? Ready? Here it goes. Here's turn left. Oh my gosh. Okay. So I went and figured this out. So I can say that like if you guys have gone out there and looked at other games or code that like makes cars drift and slide, I haven't looked at any other code to make this work. So this is straight off of the dome. So if it's disgusting and ugly and it could be better, I would love to hear your improvements. I just don't want to go watch somebody else's process. Um, I want this to be kind of like me figuring it out. So hopefully you guys like this. So let me just try to make this make sense, okay? I have two parts here, so I'm just going to collapse this. So if the velocity is greater than 0, meaning if I'm going forward, I want the car to turn, okay? So do you see this right here? So this dot angle facing, which is the way the car is drawn, it's going to add a certain amount. Remember, it used to be just like 0.01 times like velocity over max speed. Well, I didn't like that because you remember the behavior that we got with the car that boosted? It like could turn really tight, and it just felt like it was not natural. So this turn amount, if you look, this turn amount, this little logarithmic function that I found to be useful, makes the car able to turn at a tighter radius when the car is going slow and turn at a wider radius when it's going fast, which is kind of more realistic, right? Like if you're zipping around at like 100 miles an hour, you're not going to be able to turn with the same radius that you are if you're going 1 mile an hour. So this function, I figured I want there to be no ability to turn at mile per hour 0, but every time you like double your speed, I don't want the ability to rotate the car to also double. So this takes care of it, right? So that being having just covered these functions in math class, um, I figured this would be a great time to use one. So this helps me make the car feel more natural while turning. Okay, so check this out. This is the sliding right here, right? So if you're braking and the angle facing minus the angle moving is greater than pi over 3, meaning, okay, so if the car is not like, what I don't want is the angle facing and the angle moving to get too far apart, right? I capped it at pi over 3, which is about like a large slice of pizza, if you can think of it that way, like a wide slice of pizza. So if they're not that far apart, then go ahead and do you notice the quantity that I add to the angle moving is not quite nearly as big as what I add it to the facing, right? I think it's actually a tenth as much. Can you kind of see that? So the angle facing changes by the multiplier 0.1. The angle moving changes by 0.01, right? So I know there's some like there's mathematical simplification that I could do here, but this is kind of me hashing it out. So basically, the angle that it's moving is not going nearly as is not changing as fast as the angle that it's facing. So you get that drifting feel. Okay. If that, do you guys see this part? If either if it's either not braking or the angles are too far apart, then I'm just going to go ahead and change the angle moving by the same amount that I changed the angle facing. So what I would urge you to just kind of like try not to like get too bogged down in the math of it, and just kind of see how it feels. And turn right is the same thing but with opposite signs. So you can investigate that if you like it, and you can actually tweak the numbers to fit the feel of the car that you want for your game. Other than that, I have the check keys function in here, and make sure if you move the check keys in here like I did, that you use this dot, this dot, this dot instead of car dot, car dot, car dot. Okay, so that's what it looks like and feels like. I'm going to run this and kind of show you what I mean. So here's the game. So if I go forward, so remember there's no max speed, but you can kind of feel the friction getting stronger as you go faster. This is behaving much like it did before. So if I kind of collect some boost and use it, I'm going to go faster, but it's naturally, the friction will eventually catch up to the acceleration and cap your max speed. So you don't need a max speed defined anymore. So let's try some. So if you just press L, let go of the acceleration, I kind of brake. You slow down faster than if you coast. So we have, by the way, there's no coast function anymore. Isn't that cool? So Yeah, it's a lot different. I forgot that we don't have a coast function. And we also didn't have a no boost function. Isn't that cool? So I'm gonna let you investigate the code and the changes that I made and see if you like them. But otherwise, I think we're gonna be able to be just fine as far as like if you don't want to change the original code that we made, you can keep it. But look at this. If you turn and brake, you get this little you get this, right? You get that drifting kind of look, right? And that was all that wacky turn function that I designed. Makes it kind of do that, and you do get a little bit strange behavior, but I actually kind of like it. So like if you drift for a while, and then like you know, and then try to go forward, your car kind of like slides still, right? Like that. Do you see that? Yeah. So I like this drifting thing, and I think I'm going to keep it, and I think it kind of feels like fun. So I hope you like the changes, and in the next video we'll go ahead and make a ball and maybe another car that will require some new keys and maybe some, some statements in the car class to separate the two cars. Um, but there it is. I hope you like it. I hope you like playing with it, and I'm really sorry I didn't do a tutorial on how I found all that stuff. It was me nerding out like late at night trying to figure it out, and I didn't want to make videos while I was trying to figure it out. And then as soon as I figured it out, I didn't want to erase it all. So I hope you like the new code, and we'll go forward with this car class, and we're one step closer to an awesome Rocket League. I'll talk to you guys soon.